Hi, Dustin.
Hi.
It's gonna be just you and me again.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, let's see. I want to bring up, I'm gonna share a screen. I think I need to open something.
You in New Mexico now?
I am, yeah.
It's a different background.
Yeah. That's the screen I want to share. Yeah, it was interesting driving through um, Arizona.
How come?
It didn't seem like, there it is. There's sort of like no masks at all. Like it was almost like nothing was happening there. Like we stopped, I had to drop some stuff off at a friend's house and we stopped to get gas and I saw one person with a mask at the gas station. There's like a line of people not socially distancing inside. There's no protection for the person behind the register.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. Um, we wore our masks. And
Probably.
I think I compared statistics, like the number of people per 100,000 that have it there is greater than in San Diego County. Um, but what's really hit hard is the Navajo in the
Yeah.
north. So, and most of the Navajo reservation is in Arizona, and we didn't see a whole lot going on there. But then as soon as you cross into New Mexico, there's all kinds of public service announcements, and they had actually closed exits to Gallup, which is the big town there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, most of the pueblos, a lot of them, the 40 runs through a lot of the reservations, and they have gas stations and exit, and those were closed. You could pump gas, but you couldn't get food or go to the bathroom. Um, so in New Mexico, they're pretty clamped down.
That's good, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I feel really bad for the businesses in Santa Fe because it's so dependent on tourism.
Yeah.
And they've only had like 120 cases in Santa Fe County, which
That's
is
pretty
really good. Um, but there's no tourism right now.
yeah. That's what I find that's like what a lot of people are arguing about. They're like saying, "Oh no, what's the cost of like the like financial destitution versus like health and wellness?"
Well, it's a balance to be sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I just keep thinking like, well, would you rather be poor and alive or have
yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
dead people? Like,
yeah. Well, and the mixed messages coming out of the White House, my God. I stopped. For a little while, I watched his press releases and then I stopped.
I quit paying attention to them.
Okay, well, I don't see anybody yet, but it's only 2 minutes after. I've been practicing field hockey skills with my daughter. We walk to a park and hit the ball back and forth, and I'm getting pretty good. I never played before. I played floor hockey, and the stick's totally different, and the stick handling skills are totally different, and so
Yeah,
that's been kind of fun. And then working in my yard. Mhm.
it's a little different hitting the ball across the ground versus throwing it through the air.
Mhm. Right, so well, we might as well start, I guess. How's it going?
Um, Pretty good, I guess. I haven't finished the reading for the 24 yet, but it's pretty
There's
good.
a Yeah, I like this chapter. I think it's a really good ending chapter, or maybe it could be a beginning chapter too. Like because it puts everything in big perspective. Um, I tried to highlight it in the Word document that has the questions. I think it's the second question. Let me go to the page. Because the question in the book is a little bit different and a lot more demanding. In the book, it's number 3. It says many components of the glycolytic pathway and citric acid cycle are direct exit or entry points into metabolic pathways of other substances. Indicate another pathway available to following these compounds. And I think that's mostly beyond, except for some of the beyond the scope of our class. But I think we should be at a point where we're recognizing molecules as either being part of glycolysis or part of the citric acid cycle.
Yeah.
Did you look? You probably haven't looked at that yet, maybe. But
I'm ready to the questions just to kind of get an idea of where I should be focusing.
Yeah. So I pointed when I typed it up in the Word document, I pointed everyone to a page in the book and a figure number that shows the relationship of some of these compounds. Do you want me to?
I can't really hear you right now. You sound like
Oh no.
Sorry.
It just told me. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it just told me I had low resources. It's been going okay. The first day, my daughter and I both had Zoom sessions at the same time, and that wasn't working.
Yeah, it might also be on my end because both me and my wife are on. She's on a Zoom training right now. I'm trying to do that.
Well, my computer told me I had limited resources. So maybe it's on both ends. Let's see. And then there's another question where, question 5, I point to a figure also for one part of it. I say ignore 1 because we didn't do the pentose phosphate shunt.
Yeah.
And then the other I point to a figure. And so what I'm thinking is for the exam, I'll probably put a question on the exam that goes into more detail about one of the second messenger pathways, like probably describing how G proteins work and adenylate cyclic. Because those are pretty cornerstone. Those have always been in every biochemistry class I've taken.
And they're involved in a lot of cellular processes. So.
Yeah. Okay. And I looked at the nitrogen stuff. It looked fine. You went into a lot of detail on nitrogenase.
I didn't know how much you wanted, and then I thought it was actually really interesting. So
yeah, I enjoyed when I taught that. I enjoyed teaching it because it was so different from what I had covered before.
And it was something I had actually, I think I've probably never covered in any of my other classes. So it was nice to have some like new and kind of refreshing material.
Yeah, well, that's why I picked it because initially our schedule had the regular carbon pathways again, glycolysis and citric acid cycle and some other stuff that gets covered in 130. So I thought, let's mix it up a little bit. Any questions for the project?
No, not really.
Okay. And you're planning on the paper, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the middle of writing it.
So I uploaded the assignment. I've mostly copied what was in the written document, which I think I referenced in the lesson plan, but I'm not sure I did. So I'm not overly concerned that the references have the proper format, but I do want to be able to find the references.
Yeah.
So I included a link to the ACS style guidelines just as a reference. I do want things referenced in the text so I know what comes from where or in a slide. I had a question. Do you, for people, and maybe no one will do this, which is kind of funny, but for PowerPoints, if people use Google Slides, what's the extension for that? Like, PowerPoint is PPT or PPTX. Do you know?
I honestly have no idea. I tend to stay away from it because I don't know. I'm more familiar with PowerPoint.
Yeah, not everybody has PowerPoint though, and I think the generation coming up from San Diego Unified is very used to Google Classroom and using all the Google applications. So I expect more and more people are going to want to use Google
That'll be fun.
Slide. All right. Well, because it's a file upload submission, and I didn't want people who have Google Slides to have trouble uploading their files. And but they do, supposedly they have the ability to convert it to a PowerPoint slide.
I think that's.
Let's see. Let's look at the PowerPoints. Oh, and thanks for the reference for the self-recognition in the antibody. Although I still, from a molecular point of view, I still have no idea what goes on.
I agree. It was kind of helpful, but at the same time, I was like, I don't understand. A little above my head.
Well, I don't think it was above your head. I think it was a little bit ambiguous in some of the way it was worded. And then
I think it's just because we don't like fully understand how it works, so we're just kind of guessing.
yeah, because it says recognize self, but I don't know what that, if there's tons of MHC, presentations of self that somehow are marked differently than foreign ones.
From what I can't remember if I read it in a book or like a class somewhere, but I thought like all our cells have like specific MHCs that like represent like self, and that it wasn't like a bunch of different ones, that it was just
Almost like there's a password.
kind of, yeah.
That would
But
make sense. That would be far simpler, right?
don't quote me on that. I
Yeah.
couldn't find like where I like had read or heard that in ours.
Did you mention that to me before? Because I feel like I've heard it, but I don't know if it was from you or if it was from a different source.
I don't know. I might have if I was trying to explain it, but
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a couple things. I had the one question about the metals, because I thought it was interesting, the trace minerals.
mm-hmm.
Right, so some of them are weird, right? Like there is some, like we actually use arsenic, I think, for something which is toxic.
Yeah.
High levels, and chromium too, right? And so the question in the homework is what do we think we use them for? And the most logical answer is as a cofactor in an enzyme, right?
Yeah.
So it would function as a Lewis acid or as a structural component.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just trying to think, because sometimes their questions are a little bit, it's difficult to figure out what they're getting at. I like the inclusion of the food pyramid.
I didn't know they had made a new food pyramid.
You didn't know?
No.
Well, I think we've actually moved on from the pyramid during the Obama years. We had a plate.
Yeah, that's the last thing I remember, where it was like split up between like a pie chart kind of different.
Yeah. And that's actually like, I have been a subscriber to Weight Watchers, and their rule of thumb is like half your plate should be vegetables and 1/4 carbohydrates, 1/4 protein. And I actually think that's really easy. I had a really funny, when that first came out, I have to find this image. My son, so there was a big uproar because the milk was not on the plate, it was on the side. And so the dairy lobby got all up in arms. And my son put some sign on his bedroom door about the fruit and vegetable lobby being at war with the dairy lobby. It was really funny. He was like 7, I think.
Smart kid.
Yeah, he was very up on stuff like that. So the obesity stuff I thought was interesting. When I taught biochemistry back at USD, there was a lot of interest in leptin because leptin is implicated in, it's been a target for dealing with obesity.
Mhm.
And I think they found that in some obese people, they have underproduction of leptin, and it's also correlated with the sense of feeling full. I
Mhm.
remember reading a paper about that a long time ago. So that was pretty interesting, but I don't think I have any questions on that. I didn't like any of the questions. Food pyramid. Um, oh, and then the hormones, there's a question about do they all look the same? And the answer is no, right? Some of them are peptides, some of them are amino acid derivatives, and some of them are steroids. I thought this was a weird image, but it sort of works. Hmm. I thought this was overwhelming.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, it reminds me of some of my like neuropsych classes. It was,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Hmm.
you have to learn like all the different like um, signaling pathways like in the brain and the hormone regulations. It's neurotransmitters. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I was trying to decide. I was wondering that question about whether or not all hormones look alike. Acetylcholine, right? That is a neurotransmitter. Is that
Mhm.
considered a hormone too? I don't think so.
Uh, I'm trying to. I think it depends. Like, yes, it's like why it's released and like where it's released from. So like when it's to target, um, I can't remember whether it was like if it's released into the bloodstream, it counts as a hormone, and if it's like intracellular, it's like a transmitter or some. I'd have to find
Well,
it.
it's between neurons, right? Acetylcholine is extracellular, or at least but it's probably not in the bloodstream.
Yeah. So when it's like released, I can't remember. There's some weird definition between the two.
Well, and that other figure would suggest that all hormones are in the bloodstream, right? This one here.
I think so.
Okay. Well, this doesn't really answer that question. Does it?
No, it's not at all.
Okay. Growth hormone. Okay, so yeah, so I was glad to see all this stuff about cyclic AMP. And of course, cyclic AMP is just a phosphate group cyclized between, what is this, 1, 2, 3, and 5? Yeah, 3, 5 on the ribose.
Mhm.
Although some of the stuff was kind of tricky to follow. So I have to figure out how to write a good question on this. But this is where I'm headed, I think, for an exam question. Something like putting something like this out there and asking some questions about it
Okay.
with access to the book because it's too much.
I don't think I'd be able to do it without. So.
No, and I mean the truth is neither would I. I mean, I remember a lot of the cyclic AMP G protein stuff from undergrad. And it was talked about a lot in graduate school, but at a more broad level. Um, Specifically, this guy is that protein kinase C. There was someone at UCSD that studies one of these guys, whether it's protein kinase A or C, Susan Taylor. So saw a lot of seminars on it. Okay. Oh, and I liked this. I have vague recollections of PIP2 going to IP3 from undergraduate too. And there's a question about why does, this is too small, but why does IP3 migrate away from the membrane and diacylglycerol DAG stay intact? And it has to do with the structure, right? Diacylglycerol has the 2 fatty acid chains, and IP3 is a soluble molecule. The inositol is like a sugar, so it's water soluble. It's going to be cytosolic, and the diacylglycerol is like 1 chain away from being a fat, so it would stay in a plasma membrane. Yeah, I think that's all I have. If you have questions, let me know.
I don't have any yet. I probably will.
Well, so this is not due till the 20th.
Yeah.
So we have time. Let me go to the calendar and change the share.
Yeah, because I've been kind of focusing on the paper and not.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I didn't make the homeworks that long. Um, okay. Oops. Yeah, I'm slow too, for sure. Oops. There it is. Okay, so we are here. Projects are due here. So on Tuesday, my guess is there's not going to be any PowerPoint presentations. So we can review for the exam and answer questions about 24.
Okay.
And then I'll post the exam, same style as exam 2
Okay.
on Thursday.
Um. Yeah. Is the final exam cumulative? Like.
Yeah.
Like.
So some of that tricky stuff from exam 1,
Okay.
I'm actually looking forward to giving people another chance at some of the buffer stuff.
Okay. Have to
Um,
back
I
up.
I will keep it. I mean, it'll be under a time limit, but I'll keep it open book because the second half has been that way, and I think I don't want to close the book on stuff you've been used to looking at.
Okay.
But that's going to affect how I write the questions, right? Like you're not going to draw an amino acid if you can open a book and copy it, kind of thing. So that's my plan right now.
Okay.
All right. Well, good luck with everything. I think I'm gonna drive back on Sunday.
So good luck. Was traffic pretty bad, or was it?
No, traffic was like we got stuck in Phoenix for about 10 minutes. It was really light otherwise. Um, and for the first time I've ever used I used cruise control. Like I've never trusted it before, but it saved my legs.
Especially on those long road trips? Gonna get. You
Yeah.
never think about like getting foot cramps from driving, but
Yeah, I was feeling it like in my hip.
yeah.
And for a lot of it, it's just open road. Um,
Yeah,
and
my sister she's in somewhere in Arizona. I can't remember. It was really far away.
who's there?
My little sister, she's there
Um,
for school, and I
is
think it
she
was.
in northern Arizona?
Um,
That's in Flagstaff.
I can't. I can't remember where it was. I don't. I'm terrible with names of places.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's okay. No problem.
It was. I should know this, but
Yeah. Some of the counties, I looked at the county map this morning. Some of the counties have very low counts of the virus. Phoenix, Maricopa, where Phoenix is, has quite a bit.
She's been coming back to California because her school's like went to all online, and she's like, I don't want to be in Arizona by myself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
plus, like you said, they're not half the people aren't following the restrictions, and she's
Oh, yeah. I don't even know.
super like heated about it.
I don't even know what their restrictions are. It didn't appear that there were many. I saw people in a nail salon. The restaurants were not allowing seated dining, but yeah, it just seemed kind of a general, like, you know, things hadn't changed.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll end it there, and I guess I'll see you Tuesday. If you have questions in between, you can also email me, and I look forward to seeing what your paper says. What's the most interesting thing you've found so far?
Um, I don't really know.
Okay.
All of it, kind of, because I didn't know. I hadn't really been doing any research about it, but I really like most of the stuff I've been focusing on is like, I know it like bleeds in with the other questions, but about like the um, surface proteins and like entry mechanism for
Hmm.
corona, because it's like what causes the symptoms and like basically how it targets like the cells specifically and mainly like in the respiratory system, and that's what causes most of the bad
The bad
like side effects like pneumonia and all this other stuff. And how I think it's interesting how like it progresses from like majority of people that don't show any symptoms is because it stays in like their upper airway and doesn't progress further, and then when it gets deeper like into the lungs, that's what causes a lot of the like more severe symptoms and like infections, and then because it causes massive like cell death, and then your alveoli fill up with like dead cells and other liquids and stuff, and then you get the pneumonia and
Oh,
progresses from there.
is that the normal mechanism for pneumonia, or is that a departure?
I'm not sure. I feel like it's,
There's usually fluid, but I don't know if it's from cell death.
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
normally from cell death. I thought it was normally from, because pneumonia is like a normally a, like, well, it depends, but a bacterial infection. And then I thought most of the fluid was from like the immune response and like,
Oh, that would make sense.
so
That's
I'm
interesting.
not sure if it's the same or just I just never knew about it.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was really interesting. I had this NOVA program on last night. I sent the email, and they were talking specifically about the development of RNA vaccines, and there's one in clinical trials, but storage is a major hurdle, right? Because RNA is so much less stable than DNA because of
Yeah.
that 2' hydrolysis. And it was really cool. They had images of massive um, RNA structures with the loops and the hairpins, and their strategy for stabilizing the RNA is to create ones that specifically have secondary structure, the hairpin.
Oh,
Yeah. I thought, oh, I wish the class were watching this right now. But the other thing I was thinking was, yeah, so if an RNA vaccine is only RNA, storage is a problem, but synthesis should be pretty easy
easy. Yeah. I mean,
and
you would be able to do it pretty rapidly. So
and decentralized, right? Like it
yeah.
would be pretty easy to have production of it in, in many plaplaces.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool.
If they're willing to share with
Mhm.
I said if they're willing to share with everyone. That's the
Oh, the sequence?
yeah.
Yeah. I think someone's got to make a claim to eminent domain and the importance of, you know, but yeah, you're right. All right. Well, I'll see you maybe on Tuesday.
Yeah. And I'll email you if I have any questions on the
Sounds
homework.
good. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.